the temptation to take Ole Miss to upset Oklahoma is incredibly real. It's so incredible, and I'm not doing it.
You are Locked On College Football with Spencer McLaughlin, your daily podcast on all things college football. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Locked On College Football. I'm your host, Spencer McLaughlin. Thank you all so much for making this your first listen or your first view every day, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day, your daily source to stay up to date with the biggest stories in this, the greatest sport on planet Earth. All my big game picks, best bets are back, going for a second straight winning week. That's all on today's show, which is brought to you by our friends over at Mazda. Like the players of your favorite team. They sweat every detail at Mazda. Why wouldn't they? Because when you make every move count, pulling off the unexpected is only the beginning. Stay tuned later for highlights in this week's Moving the Game Forward Mazda Move and Be Moved. Did you like that pause for dramatic effect just to let the Mazda settle in? Well, I think Oklahoma's run game has to settle in if they're going to beat Ole Miss in this spot. Putting the onus on John Mateer to do everything has shown its limitations, and it was a concern I highlighted even when Oklahoma was winning games before they got upset by Texas a couple of weeks ago when they beat Michigan, as a matter of fact. A game I thought they'd win. I said, man, they really can't run the ball with running backs. Do you know what happened last week? I'm surprised this wasn't national news. I mean, like a certain NBA scandal level of national news. Oklahoma had a 100-yard rusher last week. And what do you know? They beat South Carolina, and they beat them comfortably. That's what could happen. That's all it takes. This doesn't need to be, for Oklahoma, a Michigan-level rushing attack. It just needs to be complimentary enough, good enough, sufficient, satisfactory, meets expectations. You don't have to be carried by the run game, though maybe this is the week that happens. I don't know. We'll see. How healthy is John Mateer? We'll see. This Ole Miss defense hasn't been particularly good. If Lane Kiffin becomes the next head coach at the University of Florida, I don't think he's going to take Pete Golding with him. Heck, I would just leave Florida's defensive coordinator in place. It's the head coach and offensive side of the ball that need to be revamped, but Florida's defense not actually the problem there. But the outlier game for Ole Miss defensively this year was LSU. And when I think about two offenses in the SEC that are similar, I actually think of Oklahoma and LSU. I've got veteran quarterbacks who I know are good that are not always playing to their potential. Mateer has been better than Garrett Nussmeier this year without question, but the running games have just been severely lacking. LSU, when they took on Ole Miss earlier this year, a game that the Rebels won in Oxford, this game being played in Norman, of course, ran for 57 yards. LSU ran for 57 yards. That game is the outlier for this Ole Miss defense. Georgia State ran for 191. Arkansas went for 220. Georgia went for 220. Tulane went for $178. Washington State went for 127. I think even that 127, 130, 40-ish range is enough. If Oklahoma is able to do that, they're going to win the football game. Now, last week against Georgia, Trinidad Chambliss played well enough for the Rebels to win. The defense, of course, did not. You score 35 points on the road, yet you should win the football game. You can't put that on. My threshold, personally, for defense did not play well enough, blame the offense. If the offense puts up 30 or more points, I don't care who your opponent is. But especially if you're a team that is striving for a conference championship, which Ole Miss absolutely is, for a college football playoff spot, which Ole Miss absolutely is, you cannot score over 30 points and say, oh, well, the offense did. Nope. You can put that on the third or fourth reason, the third or fourth bullet point on your list as to why you lost. You can't put that in the top two reasons why you lost the football game. So Ole Miss's offense, Trinidad Chambliss, missed a couple of throws last week against Georgia. Guess what? That's not my concern. My concern is, can Ole Miss's defense get enough stops here on the road against Oklahoma? Because if they can't, then guess what? Oklahoma's going to win the game. The Sooners are allowing less than 10 points per game on the year. And in SEC play, they've played well. Ask South Carolina how easy it is. Ole Miss's offense obviously way ahead of where South Carolina's is. The caliber talent on the receiving end of things is just significantly higher and deeper across the board. So I think Oklahoma wins this game. I think Oklahoma's defense is the difference. Just get to just 125. That's it. Oklahoma, if you get to 125 on the ground against this Ole Miss defense that Gunnar Stockton just picked apart, with John Mateer looking for maybe a bit of a confidence boost to try to find his way back to that Heisman form he had through the first month of the season. If you can do that, then they'll beat Ole Miss. This is not one of my best bets because I think the upset potential for Ole Miss to go and get this done is very real. I do, however, think Oklahoma will win the football game. I'll take them to get it done, 24-20. They find a way. That is, again, not one of my best bets of the week. My confidence level, not very high. I think this is more of a toss-up. I'm frankly surprised the line is as big as it is. Maybe Vegas knows something. Maybe Vegas knows Oklahoma's defense is just going to go and shut down Ole Miss this weekend. And maybe that happens. The Oklahoma defense is very good. I liked it all offseason. I've liked it throughout the course of the season as well. But here's the tough stretch for the Sooners. You want to be an SEC champion. You want to be in the playoff, try to play for a national championship. Here's your stretch. This is the back half of the schedule. We've talked about it with Oklahoma a lot. I think it's going to be very hard. I do think they will win this game, but I'm not that confident in it. Something else I want to talk about to start today's show that is just a complete and utter... I got to take a breath. I could say something that would make me have to edit it out or start the recording over here on the show because I get very annoyed. I get very hot and bothered when I see things like a 24-team playoff that is being discussed. I'm seeing Fox Sports tweet about it. I'm hearing Joel Klass discuss the possibility of a 24... I hate to say how right I was on this particular matter, because once they expanded the playoff, my take has been for a while, they're going to go to 24 eventually. I don't want that to happen, just to be clear, because that'd be absolutely terrible. Do you realize how irrelevant? Just think about the number of big games that we had in college football last week. You realize how irrelevant the outcome would be for a number of programs relative to the urgency that you still have even with a 12-team playoff? Ole Miss and Oklahoma this week are coming in as one-loss teams. Vanderbilt and Missouri are both one-loss teams. None of them would need to win this week to guarantee themselves a spot in the college football playoff because they'd be ranked too high, and they're playing a quality opponent. Is that really how you want to watch games? Do you want it to become like the NFL? Well, that's what the 2014 playoff is going to get you, where, oh, look at these big brands, it's fun. And then at the end of the game, you go, oh, well, they lost, but that's okay. Yeah, that's not what has made college football great. It isn't. It is just taking the regular season and sucking the value out of it little by little by little. Every time they expand the playoff. Can you imagine doubling the number of teams that'll get into the playoff? There are too many this year. There's already too big a margin for error. A 24-team playoff is an abomination to the sport. I think it is absolutely, positively terrible. And yet, we're going to get there because someone, as I've always said, is going to point out, and I get these comments all the time from folks, well, the FCS does it that way. I do not want college football. I'm wearing a Disney shirt today. Look at it. That's the castle in Orlando. There's Disney World. There's Disneyland. I do not want Disneyland to become the exact same as Disney World. I would like for them to be separate entities that I can enjoy and have different aspects of both parks. I'm okay with a little bit of crossover. I'm good with that. It's a good thing, as a matter of fact. But if you give me the same exact place in two places, well, now you have not made one place more accessible because I can get to either one just fine. You have taken those places and you have made them worse because you have not kept their uniqueness. You have made them too similar. I want to watch the NFL and enjoy it for what it is, and I want to watch college football and enjoy it for what it is. So if anybody out there in the college football world listens to or watches this show that has any decision-making power, please know the 2014 playoff is absolutely horrifying. It is terrible, and it will make the regular season still fun, much less enjoyable. End of rant. End of rant. Back to big game picks. Is it actually going to happen this week? First, this episode brought to you by Mazda's Moving the Game Forward. For those who believe it's not just about playing a game, it's about redefining it. There are moments that do more than simply put points on the board. They move crowds, move culture, and keep moving the game forward. This week's moment that moved the game forward is Bear Bachmeier's 3rd and 10 quarterback scramble for a touchdown. Up 3, kind of a conservative play call by Aaron Roderick, the OC. But guess what? It worked out. It worked out. They found a way. The BYU find a way to win Cougars found a way once again to knock off Utah and crush the Utes' hopes and dreams of, winning a rivalry game. 3 in a row for BYU. Utah hasn't BYU since before COVID, and Bear Bachmeier helped that happen. They were up 3. They then went up 10. That was a 3rd and 10 quarterback draw. Utah had their chances, could not make the tackle on the true freshman. Why? Because he's just got that it factor to move BYU forward. That game was more than just about a moment. That was about a movement. And that is what BYU feels like right now. A football team that is making a move. When you follow what moves you, the unexpected is only the beginning. And just like there's more to every highlight, there's more to a Mazda vehicle. Mazda, move and be moved. This episode also brought to you by our friends over at DoorDash. Time to look back and crown this week's MVP on Who Delivered, powered by DoorDash. Just like you can win every Saturday with DoorDash Streaks, saving more every time you order. These players delivered last weekend when it mattered most. Let's break it down. So, can we just collectively shout out the Michigan defense? They look like Michigan once again. They beat Washington 24-7, picked off Damon Williams, who's been phenomenal for the Huskies this year 3 times in the game, en route to the victory. That is how you come together as a team. And yeah, you heard me say, let's look at who the MVP of last week was, but it could be most valuable players. That acronym has not been clearly defined. And Michigan's defense delivered, like DoorDash will deliver your Saturdays. With DoorDash Streaks, you save every Saturday you order. Stack it up all season. You can save up to $250, including $100 in DoorDash credits. Order this Saturday. Keep the streak alive. Fuel your game day. Only with DoorDash. Terms apply. Promo period through November 18th. Check out DoorDash today. It is time for big game picks. These are not spread picks. These are just straight up winners. It's not going to happen, right? I mean, right? Indiana's not going to lose to UCLA. Like, the Bruins are getting a reality check this week, right? Right? I mean, I think so. I'm taking Indiana to win 38-20, but 25.5 is a lot. Maybe the sharp side is Indiana because they are a significantly better football team than UCLA, but hey, I wouldn't bet against Tim Skipper, who is more than an interim head coach. I think he's going to wind up being the full-time head coach for the Bruins. Beating Indiana, look, he's already got signature wins. Bobby Petrino at Arkansas is an interim head coach that wants the job. He's looking for a signature win. I think he's going to get it this week against Auburn. But he's been looking for one of those, Tennessee was close and Texas A&M was close. That's the sort of victory that would really cement Petrino's status as the heir apparent. Yeah, if Tim Skipper doesn't already have the job, this would certainly do it. Beating the second-ranked Indiana Hoosiers, yeah, that would get the job done. I'll take Indiana to win 38-20 over UCLA. Speaking of Arkansas, I think Hugh Freeze will coach his final game with the Auburn Tigers this week. In a loss, 27-17, give me Arkansas over Auburn. There's nothing about the Tigers' offense that I have to feel good about. They don't run it consistently. They look disconjointed. They can't throw the ball down the field. Cam Coleman and Eric Singleton are not as involved as they should be as elite wide receivers. That's one of the best receiver tandems in the country. Where's the Auburn passing offense? Virtually non-existent. Arkansas is at home in Fayetteville here. They are much more motivated on that side than they are where Auburn feels like they're playing out an inevitability, which is Hugh Freeze getting fired. Yes, the officiating has been bad. The football has not been good enough, and it's year 3. So, yeah, give me Arkansas 27-17. This is going to be a popular upset alert pick. South Carolina is also trending towards, we're looking ahead to next year now. Let's talk about what sorts of adjustments need to be made. Under the radar, good team last year that surged at the end, obviously with a lot of storylines there. Under the radar, disappointing team this year, the South Carolina Gamecocks. They are a sub-500 football team. That's not going to get better this week, I don't believe. And Bama is a double-digit road favorite. It's not one of my best bets for a reason, because they do not have a good track record under Kalen DeBoer. I think they have figured things out. Ty Simpson is playing really well. Defense is much improved. The reason I think Alabama wins, and this isn't as close as a lot of people will think it's going to be, is that South Carolina's offense is just simply bad. It's bad. Defense is not as good as you'd like it to be. It's not the biggest issue. The offense isn't there. Alabama's is. They're rolling. Kalen DeBoer and Ryan Grubb have got that thing fired back up. Ryan Williams is in the fold. Jeremy Bernard is really good. Caden Proctor is, of course, the best receiver in college football. Would love to see him get the ball once again this week. So, yeah, give me Alabama 34-17 over South Carolina. Vanderbilt and Missouri. I'm not hopping off the Vanderbilt wagon here. I think Missouri's a good team. I don't think that they're going on the road and beating Vanderbilt, because I like Diego Pavia more than I like Bo Perbula. And it's wild to say Vanderbilt is not just a good team. They are a legitimate threat to make the playoff. They still have to play Texas and Tennessee this year. Don't be surprised for 1 millisecond if they beat one of those teams. But this is another opportunity with game day in town. You know Pavia is going to be fired up. Clark Lee is a heck of a coach. I like what I've seen from him on game days as the head man. I don't feel like he's being carried by a coordinator. I feel like he has the right game plan and adjustments and all that sort of stuff that a head coach does when you're not calling plays. And Clark Lee, I think, has done a really good job. Give me Vanderbilt at home, 30-24. I think they knock off Missouri. How about Washington? No, I'm not going against Vegas. I'm not. I can see Illinois going on the road winning this game. Like Luke Altmaier, like the Illini here. Vegas knows something. Washington's going to enter the top 25 after losing to Michigan last week. I think they beat Illinois, a team that I like. I had this as a loss for Illinois before the season. I think this is going to be a loss in the season. I think it'll be the last game that Illinois loses this year, and they'll wind up at 9-3. I had them 10-2 before the year, but I think they will lose this game. The only team to win at Husky Stadium since Washington joined the Big Ten, Ohio State earlier this year. That's the only one. We know Ohio State is much better than Illinois. They played earlier this year. It was one of my best bets of the week, even though it was more than a 2-touchdown spread in Champaign. A lot of points in this game. I don't like the way either defense is playing at the moment. Washington has been better on that side. Illinois is off a bye, so maybe the scoring comes down a hair. I'll go 34-27. Washington beats Illinois. Bounce back game for the offense after they really struggled last week, particularly in the second half against Michigan. I have already taken this week LSU over Texas A&M. It's a must-win spot. If Brian Kelly doesn't win this game, he may very well find himself out of a job for the time being. Just something to throw out there. Michigan and Michigan State. I considered making this a best bet on the Michigan State side, not the Michigan side, because the Wolverines bounced back last week at home. Could you have a little emotional hangover? Maybe not. There's no ingrained rivalry with Washington. I know they've met several times in the last few years, but I don't think there's anything like that. It was a good performance. They played well at home. Bryce Underwood continues looking better and better. Michigan State, also, again, a program that is in need of a win. Jonathan Smith hasn't had a great go of it in year 2. This should have been a progress year. It hasn't happened. They look the same as they did last season, and they haven't won a Big Ten game yet. They're underdogs of more than 2 touchdowns at home. Considered making it a best bet. Take the points in a rivalry game. I couldn't quite get there. There were other games that I like more. I'll talk about that later on the show. But Michigan 27, Michigan State 16. I just don't see enough from the Spartans in the trenches this year to lead me to believe they can go toe-to-toe with Michigan on either side of the ball. I think the offensive line could struggle. I think the defensive line could struggle to contain the Michigan running game, whether they have Justice Haynes or not. So, Wolverines 27, Spartans 16 in East Lansing. But if Jonathan Smith pulls that upset, hey, that'd be a notable development, shall we say. But I'm not expecting that. Arizona State 27, Houston 23. My final score prediction here. Arizona State back into my top 25, back into the AP top 25 after their win against Texas Tech last week, because results have to matter. And Houston is a good team. I don't think Houston's a great team. Houston's a good team. They are improved. Arizona State's favored by over 7.5. I'd probably go plus 7.5. But again, not one of my best bets. I like Arizona State to win the football game because they're at home. I think they can find a way. I like Sam Levitt more than I like Connor Wigman, but I'm not against the Cougars. I'm not anti-Houston. They've already gone over their win total for the season. I thought they would before the year. I had them preseason rated top half of the Big 12, but Arizona State's still a good team. And whether or not I gave them enough credit, I felt like I gave them the appropriate amount of credit last week for their win over Texas Tech, who didn't have Baron Morton in that game. The confidence that got instilled to Arizona State, call it kind of an anti-Penn State moment when they lost to Oregon and everything went south, like down to the Mariana Trench levels of south. Arizona State, I think, got an injection boost of energy last week after that game. So give me Arizona State 27-23. They hold off Houston. And then, of course, you didn't think I'd forget about the group of 5 games I talked about earlier this week. Of course I did not. The South Florida offense with Alex Golesh, it's a wagon. It's a wagon. The question I have in this game, is he a serious candidate for the Florida head coaching job? I haven't heard that yet. Lane Kiffin is who I've been told is the top target, but If Lane Kiffin says no and Golesh becomes a target, does that lead to distractions in the locker room, within the coaching staff? That could throw this one off. But South Florida's offense is pretty hard to go against. Go look at the point totals they have put up against conference teams. They're going to Memphis, favored by 4.5. Again, these are just picks, not a best bet. 34-27. I'll take South Florida to knock off Memphis. And finally, Fresno State, San Diego State. I talked about the Aztecs. They have been surging, playing much better football. Speaking of teams that have already gone over their win totals this year, San Diego State fits that description, and they are at the poker table. Well, that is an interesting analogy to have. I already put it out there earlier this week, but that context carries different weight today. I think we all know why. Fresno State 20, San Diego State 14. I think Fresno State at home finds a way to get it done. Low-scoring football game. San Diego State's offense, hit and miss. Defense is great. Fresno State, got to protect the football. You protect the football, have one or fewer turnovers. I think Fresno State wins the game. 2 or more, give me San Diego State to get that done. But I think they'll be able to protect it. Matt Entz, really good football coach there with the Bulldogs, has the program moving in the right direction. 2014 over San Diego State. Those are my big game picks for the week. I'm even more excited for my best bets of the week. This is the most pressure I've ever felt for a best bet segment. First, this episode brought to you by FanDuel, which is appropriate since I'm about to get to my best bets of the week here on the show. Looking for, sadly, a first this year, a second straight winning week. That's what we're going for. 4-1 with the picks last week. Would love to stay hot, get back to 500, try to get over by the end of the regular season. If you think you can do better than me, hey, FanDuel's got you covered for college football and beyond. And they've got a great offer. The NFL season's here, and FanDuel has an offer you don't want to miss. Right now, new customers can bet just $5 and get $300 in bonus bets if you win. That's right. You pick a bet, you put down $5, and if it hits, you'll unlock $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. If you think my picks are going to regress back to what they have been, which is under 500 this year, well, then guess what? You can fade them. I'm about to give them to you. You can go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Boom. We're done. We're done. You can just take the other side. Go for it. I'm not going to hold it against you. Last week, I would have had some bragging rights. This week, we'll see. We'll see. Not as easy as it looks. But if you think you can do better than me, which maybe you can, go check them out at FanDuel.com. What are you waiting for? Visit FanDuel.com to download the FanDuel app today and get started. Check them out at FanDuel.com. My best bets of the week, I got to tell you, I'm a little nervous coming into this week. Big pressure. If we can repeat the success of last week for this segment, then guess what? I'll be back at 500 on the year and on the upswing. So going for a second straight week, here we go. Utah at home, minus 13.5 against Colorado. These lines provided by our friends at FanDuel, of course. The Utes just lost another heartbreaking game, and they are coming back home against a Colorado team that I think we can pretty readily establish by now, and I felt before the year, and it's played out coming into the season. Yeah, they're not as good as Utah. The last time Utah took a loss, why don't you ask a couple other bottom-feeding teams in the Big 12? Well, Arizona State without Sam Leavitt and with Jeff Sims at quarterback fits that description. But why don't you ask West Virginia, or why don't you ask a Sam Leavitt-less Arizona State team what happens when you play Utah, or ask UCLA when they're coming off of a disappointing sequence. The Bruins, back in week 1, I believe 43-10 was the final score, were on the wrong end of Utah missing a bowl game last year. The Mountaineers and the Sun Devils were on the wrong end of Utah losing at home to Texas Tech, where they were out physical. Well, now Colorado is going to get Utah off of a rivalry loss to their in-state foe for a third straight year. Oh boy. Utah, I expect to come out and try to get a feel-right game. I think they will try and pour it on. I think the offense will come out and have a lot of success running the football, because Colorado still, in Coach Sanders' third year, cannot stop the run consistently. And I just think this is a spot where Utah is going to get their frustrations out. Last week, we saw a game like this in Piscataway. It was Oregon going to Rutgers after they lost at home to Indiana. Ducks were in whatever you want to call it, wounded animal mode. They had a broken wing, flat. Yeah, Rutgers was on the wrong end of that particular game. They were a punching bag for Oregon's frustrations. That's Colorado in this spot. So give me Utah to cover the 13.5 points there against the Buffs. I'll go Utah 38, Colorado 17 in that one. Another game in the Big 12. This kind of goes against one of my long-standing rules, but how good should my rules really be viewed when, I've had middling success picking games against the spread this year? Again, lines provided by our friends at FanDuel. Kansas minus 2.5 against Kansas State. Kansas State has had a little midseason resurgence that has made fans in Manhattan wonder where in the world was this earlier this year? Why could they not play this brand of football? How could you not at least beat Arizona to start conference play? Yeah, too late for all of that. Kansas is asking some of the same questions, and though Kansas' record doesn't actually reflect it, I think they're a pretty good team. Their defense is not good. They're not good, but giving up less than a field goal at home in a rivalry game, I'm okay with that. I wouldn't go, so far as to take a team like Michigan minus 14.5 against Sparty. Like, that's one where rivalry game, take the points, but in this particular spot, I think Kansas at home can just outscore Kansas State. I trust their offense with Jalen Daniels a lot more than I trust it with Avery Johnson at the controls. So give me Kansas to win. A lot of points in this one, but 34-28. I'll take the Jayhawks over the Wildcats there. Another home 2.5 point favorite. This is kind of a sicko college football pick, but I'm here doing a daily college football show, so you got to know at some level I'm college football diehard. Did you see the Conference USA battle on Wednesday night when, let me get this right, Louisiana Tech pulled off the miracle, the Nashville Miracle with the Titans, Music City Miracle? They did that, but just on a normal play to begin the third quarter. Yeah, anyway, just showing you the college football that I watched throughout the week. Washington State minus 2.5 against Toledo. Toledo is 0-3 on the road this year. Washington State has been up and down, but the last 2 weeks, they have gone on the road to Ole Miss and played them to a tight game in the fourth quarter. And last week had Virginia on the ropes. They had them absolutely positively on the ropes in the fourth quarter. Cavaliers found a way to come back and win. This is a Washington State team that is primed for a win. Toledo's making a long trip to Pullman. I don't know if they've been there before. It is not particularly easy to go there and win at Martin Stadium, but Toledo's not won a road game. That does not start this week. Washington State wins. Washington State, I think, kind of cruises here against Toledo. 27-10. They knock off the Rockets, I believe it is, and they get a win over the MAC. So, Two more games. Let's talk about Minnesota. So Minnesota last week made me look pretty good. They were an easy pick for my best bets, plus 7.5. I'm going to ride them again, plus 8.5. I don't know that they win at Iowa, who's been playing sneaky good football. You know what? No, I think Minnesota wins again. I think the Golden Gophers are the better team. Iowa has definitely improved. The offense has started to come around after another horrible start to the year. The winner of this game should find themselves in the top 25. I can guarantee you the winner will find themselves inside of my top 25, Spencer's poll, if you will. But the Golden Gophers are a team that I think is playing good ball. And from the early part of the season, I think they continue to improve. They have found the run game. I like the Minnesota defense. I don't think there are a lot of points in this one. Give me Minnesota and the outright upset 2017 over the Hawkeyes at Kinnick. Yeah, at Kinnick Stadium. I said it. I think there's going to be a little emotional hangover there from the Hawkeyes after a thrilling win against Penn State last week. I think Minnesota goes in there and gets it done. Finally, speaking of wagons that I just hitched myself to with one of those clamp thingies or whatever you call it, Mississippi State. Is there a team that I have bet on more here in the best bets segment than Mississippi State? I don't know. I don't know if there is one singular team. Now, here's the difficult thing. The Bulldogs, still under Jeff Lebby, have not won an SEC game. They should have won last week. They covered, so I got in the win column for my best bets there, but they have not won an SEC game. They're playing Texas at home, who's inside the top 25. Not my top 25, the AP top 25. The Texas offense is still really bad. They could have lost. Some would say should have lost, but didn't. to Kentucky last week. Kentucky, not good. Not good at all. Mississippi State, I think, is better than Kentucky. I have half a mind to take the outright win, but Mississippi State's performances against elite defenses haven't been spectacular. 7.5, though, too many points. Too many points. So I'll take Texas to win another slugfest. 17-13, the Longhorns get it done. So, after 4-1 last week, make a bounce back, and here we are for the best bets of the week. It is Utah minus 13.5 against Colorado. Again, these are the lines as I'm recording the show, according to our friends at FanDuel. Mississippi State plus 7.5 against Texas. Minnesota plus 8.5 at Iowa. Washington State minus 2.5 against Toledo. And Kansas minus 2.5 against Kansas State. Those are your best bets of the week. If there was ever such, no, you can't ever say my picks are a lock. Was 1 week the aberration? I talked about an aberration with Ole Miss's defense earlier in the rushing yards allowed per game. Maybe last week was that. Maybe last week was my Ole Miss allows 57 yards on the ground to LSU game. Could be. Could be. If you feel differently, well, you check them out at FanDuel.com. Appreciate everyone listening. I'll see you next time. And until then, hope you all have a wonderful rest of your day.